Did you get an answer to your question, Judge?
No, it looks like all the participants are muted right now, but I'm going to use intuition and by reading their names, it appears that that's correct.
Did you get an answer to your question?
Thank you for the chat on that.
I think we're okay. I think he's good.
So I think we're ready to go from our end. Are the scoring panelists ready, Ms. Cox?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Scott?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, is there a representative for each team who will handle pretrial matters?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, who do we have from the plaintiff?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Lila Hinchy, and today I'll be handling preliminary matters, and I will be direct examining the Miss Carson Durst and cross-examining Skylar Weirs.
Thank you. Could we get introductions of the plaintiff team? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kendall Adams, and today I am Carson Durst. Hi. Hi, my name is Avery. Your Honor, I'm so sorry. We've had some speaker issues. Hello, my name is Avery Martin, but today I am Dr. Casey Rogers.
Thank you, Ms. Arden. I'm sure we'll get those taken care of.
Hi, my name is Macy Bjork, and today I will be Dakota Weirs. Hi, my name is Annie Golmanis. I will be doing the direct of Dr. Casey Rogers, the cross of Blake Doncourt, and the closing argument.
Hi, my name is Margaret Lively, and I will be performing the direct examination of Dakota Weirs and the cross-examination of Dr. Devin Williams. I will also be performing the opening statement.
Anybody else on the plaintiff team?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, defense, who will be handling preliminary matters?
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Keen Schlater-Mott. I will be handling pretrial matters, our opening, and the direct of Blake Doncourt and the cross of Dakota Weirs. May my co-counsel introduce themselves.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Olivia Fendrick. Today, I'll be conducting the direct examination of Skylar Weirs and the cross-examination of Carson Durst.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I will be direct examining Dr. Devin Williams, cross-examining Dr. Casey Rogers, and I will also be delivering our closing arguments.
Thank you.
Hello, Your Honor. My name is Catherine May, but today I am Dr. Devin Williams.
Hello, Your Honor. My name is Grant Havelander, but today I am Skylar Weirs.
And I'm Virginia Frau, but today I am Blake Doncourt.
All right. Are the timekeepers ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Excellent. All right, why don't we bring up the lawyers who are doing the preliminary matters? First, are both sides ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense is ready to proceed.
Plaintiff, are there any preliminary matters you would like to address?
Yes, Your Honor. The plaintiff has a few items to discuss with the court. First, We request if Dakota Weirs is allowed to stand up during her direct examination due to the fact that she's suffering from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and cannot sit for a period of time.
I think that will be appropriate if the comfort requires that.
Next, the plaintiff asks permission to screen share exhibits while laying foundation with the witness.
You may do so.
Your Honor, just so we don't misgender anyone, we ask all witnesses to provide the court with their preferred pronouns.
I think that's appropriate.
Your Honor, the plaintiff asks for permission to use remaining time in closing arguments for rebuttal.
I will leave it up to the counsel who's doing closing argument to be aware of their own time and with the assistance of their timekeeper. It'll be up to the counsel to use whatever time they wish for rebuttal.
And lastly, we request that counsel is permitted to use Dakota Weirs and Skylar Weirs by their first name because they share the last name and that could cause confusion.
To the extent it's necessary to avoid confusion, I think that's appropriate.
That's all the preliminary matters we have, Your Honor.
All right, from the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. We simply have one pre-trial matter. We simply request that our timekeeper screen share our exhibits to allow for lag constraint issues.
Whoever the team would like to use to present exhibits, they may.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further pre-trial matters.
All right. It's now time to swear in the team members, witnesses, and gallery members and the scoring panelists. So can we have all of the attorneys for today? Please get on screen. Each raise your right hands. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? All right, I see heads nodding since you're all on mute, so I'll take that as a yes. All right, witnesses, can we please get on screen? All right, witnesses, raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition? I see nodding heads all around. Thank you. Gallery members, typically this is an in-person event, but some of you are watching on YouTube. So we are asking you for all gallery members, including teachers and attorney coaches, family members and friends, please raise your right hands. And we're asking you to promise to represent yourselves as positive role models and to behave in a manner that exemplifies ethical, professional sportsmanship during and after this mock trial round. I can't see you, so I will assume that you will do so. Thank you. And if the scoring panelists can come on screen, please. And since I am one, I will do the same. Scoring panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition? All right. Jan, I don't see you nodding your head. All right. I think we are all good. If the scoring panelists will go ahead and go off screen. I believe we're ready to proceed.
Yes,
So
Your Honor.
let's start with opening statement from the plaintiff.
Your Honor.
Also, before we start, can the coordinator make sure that all non-video participants are off screen. I think everyone needs to do that for themselves. So can everybody make sure the non-video participants are off screen on your Zoom so that you have a better view of the participants? I apologize for interrupting you. And Plaintiff, if you may proceed with your opening statement.
Thank you. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury and opposing counsel, I would like to put you in a situation. Imagine that you are 20 years old, fresh out of high school, getting ready to go to Juilliard, the best performing arts school in the world, and then you get diagnosed with cancer. This cancer, a type so aggressive that you cannot even sit on the piano doing what you love the most. Imagine that this aggressive cancer you have was caused by a fertilizer you started using at work when you were 14. A fertilizer that is banned across France, but does not have any warning that it could cause cancer and take away someone's entire future. This is the exact situation that Dakota Weirs has been put in and might stay in for the rest of her life. All because of fertilizer that didn't have a warning on it stating that it could cause cancer. While Lush Fertilizer might tell you that Dakota Weirs never wore protective clothing, please take into consideration that it was the middle of the summer, over 100 degrees out, too hot to wear clothing like that. Lush never included a warning that its fertilizer could cause cancer on its packaging. Like Dakota will tell you, she would have been the first person to wear protective gear if she knew that that fertilizer she was using could cause cancer. Later in this trial, you will also hear from Dr. Casey Rogers, who has studied the effects of chemicals on humans. While you will hear that Dr. Rogers never peer-reviewed her study, at least she spent several years studying these effects, unlike Lush Fertilizer, who only spent 2 months. Lastly, you will hear from Carson Durst, who worked on the development of Drufo and learned how the chemical is potentially carcinogenic to humans. She will talk about how Lush Fertilizer learned that Drufo could be linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, the cancer Miss Weirs is diagnosed with, and chose not to do anything about it. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I would like to touch on one last point. You are here today because a 20-year-old was diagnosed with cancer. Her entire future has been taken away by Lush Fertilizer, all because they did not follow up on the deadly effects of their fertilizer and make sure it was safe. Thank you.
Does the defense wish to put on an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. We are here today because of a series of errors, all of which built up to a misguided lawsuit. We are here today seeking a ruling in favor of the defense. Throughout this case, we will demonstrate that Dakota Weirs is a victim of a psychological effect known as confirmation bias. When someone is subject to confirmation bias, they form an opinion, and then they search out for all the evidence that supports their opinion and ignore all the logic, reason, and evidence that may clash with their opinion. As you will see, each witness's claims are based on one study. And following that one study, each witness searched out what little evidence supported their claims. Specifically, Carson Durst, an intern hired through nepotism, who after a little more than a week of total work experience, found one study which set off a series of misguided events. One initial study that found that Drufo may be carcinogenic in rats, not humans. With 10 days of total work experience, Mrs. Durst was sure that Drufo was a huge conspiracy. This led Ms. Durst to run to the media to try and get some publicity out of the stunt. This story was seen by Ms. Weirs, who quickly associated all of her medical ailments with one chemical, even though she was unprotected around many other chemicals. Throughout this case, Blake Doncourt will testify that Drufo was never dangerous, and in fact was added to the fertilizer to reduce its environmental impact. Ms. Doncourt will testify that the baking process was expensive and unimportant. Skylar Weirs will testify that the plaintiff's information on Drufo is a classic case of misinformation, and he will explain the benefits it provides to the soil and the environment. Finally, Dr. Devin Williams will explain the science behind Drufo and how it protects the environment. Dr. Williams will also explain the claims of Dr. Rogers' study. Finally, she will show us what errors were made in the study and how that affected the results. All of this will clearly allow the members of the jury to conclude that Dakota's story is just that, an opinion, and a misguided one at that, and that there is no reasonable way Ms. Weirs could know that her disease was caused by lush fertilizer. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Is the plaintiff prepared to put on its first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Carson Durst to the stand. Good
Ms. Durst, you've been sworn in. Can you please let the panel know your preferred pronouns?
She, her.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Durst. Please state your name for the jury.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carson Durst.
And Carson, why are you here today?
I am here today because lush fertilizer causes cancer and they knew it.
Starting off, could you tell us a little bit about your educational background?
Yes. So I graduated from Arizona State University in 2003 with a bachelor's in chemical engineering.
And after graduation, where did you go to work?
I went to work as an intern at Lush Fertilizer.
And did you know the defendant, Blank Doncourt?
I did. Yeah,
And would you say you were particularly close with him?
I would say.
Could you tell us about your experience as a product development engineer in the research and development department at Lush Fertilizer?
Yes, of course. I was initially an intern after my senior year, as all college students were. And then I was promoted throughout the company. I worked really hard and I kept getting promoted into different positions.
And were you researching anything in specific?
Yeah, I was researching the health effects of the fertilizer, specifically if it causes cancer or not.
What were you researching in specific? A certain study?
Yeah, it was mostly that I was researching like the health effects and the cancer, as I said, but I found a study from England about rats, about the carcinogens present within the fertilizer, and then eventually a in-house study about the health effects on humans.
And could you turn to Exhibit 3 in front of you?
Yes.
Could you briefly describe what this document is?
Yeah, an overview of this is the study that I found in England that, I kind of mentioned before.
And did you put this study anywhere?
Yeah. As part of my job, I, reviewed this study and I found it interesting and it's obviously important. So I put it down in my notebook as I did with all of the other research that I did.
And is this a true and accurate copy of the study that you put into your notebook?
Yes.
Your Honor, the plaintiff moves to enter Exhibit 3 into evidence.
Any objection from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
Your Honor, Carson testified that this is a copy of the study that she found, and she put this in her notebook. And she also testified this is a true and accurate copy.
Can you just elaborate on your objection, please, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. The validity of this study has not been confirmed. The truth of the matter asserted has not been addressed yet in the admissibility procedures.
Truth of the matter asserted isn't a foundation objection. So if the objection is foundation, I'll overrule that at this time and admit the exhibit.
Ms. Durst, what does this data represent?
This data represents the carcinogens present within the Lush fertilizer and its clear health effects on the rats. And it proves that rats exposed to this specific compound, it causes lymphomas and an increase of lymphomas and other cancers.
And what other research did you do concerning Drufo?
Yeah, as I briefly mentioned before, we conducted an in-house study on humans, me and my coworkers.
And did you ever come together with your coworkers to discuss your findings?
Yeah, of course. We had a couple meetings about it. We also had an email sent out about it.
Could you turn to Exhibit 4 in front of you?
Yes, one moment, please. Okay, yeah, I got it.
Do you recognize this?
Yes,
And how do you recognize it?
this was an email sent to me and my coworkers. It was from my manager.
And who was this written by and to whom?
Yeah, my manager, Jerry Langley, and it was to me and my coworkers, specifically Blake Doncourt.
Your Honor, permission to admit Exhibit 4 into evidence.
Any objections?
No objections, Your Honor.
Then it will be admitted.
Ms. Durst, could you read or summarize Exhibit 4 to the jury?
Yes, this email specifically says that they were aware of present like concerns that have arisen. So they are aware of the carcinogens within their product that could cause cancer, but basically to conceal that.
And after you received this email, what happened at Lush?
There were a couple in-house studies done, but I was kind of taken off my management, my specific job became a little bit rocky because of the fact that they wanted to cover up the fact that there was cancer causing agents within their product. And I had found evidence about this. So my job became rocky.
And did you present your findings to the manager?
I did, yes. I wrote it in a notebook, which I obviously gave into her.
And in a monthly report, was there any mention of your findings to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, as I said, I always turned in my notebooks. So every month she would review my findings and the work that I had conducted.
But was your work present in the monthly report that was sent out at your company?
No, it was never touched on.
And about this monthly report, what conclusions did you make after reading it?
After this, yes. I just found it very, very saddening, honestly, that Lush wouldn't talk about the cancer-causing agents that were present, but never were mentioned in their report.
And let's go back to your employment. After all of this, how was it? Could you just give us a reminder?
Yeah, my employment became very rocky, and people found my work, they were annoyed by my work and all this, etc. Like, I had found these present carcinogens, but they didn't want to hear about it because they wanted their product to keep going out. So yeah, my employment became rocky.
And after having a rocky employment and receiving complaints, who at the company did you discuss this with?
Well, I talked to Blake Doncourt because, we were okay at the time. We were friends. And I went to talk to him about my performance reviews and etc. But I was never able to talk to Blake.
And after never finding time to be able to talk to him, what did you do?
I was disheartened. I liked what I did, but I had to find somewhere else to work because I knew that my career was practically over at this point.
And where did you go to work?
I went to work at Terrace Greenery.
And when exactly did you start working at Terrace?
It was kind of long ago. I think maybe around 2006.
And did you start working immediately after your time at Lush?
Well, I was supposed to, but because of the contract that I signed, I didn't end up working there for 6 months afterwards.
And what did this contract stop you from doing?
yeah, working there for 6 months, Lush didn't really want me to conceal or like expose information about their product, which obviously I wouldn't do, but I mean, there was nothing secretive about it, but the contents within their fertilizer wasn't a secret.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Durst. So to begin, let's discuss your employment at Lush Fertilizer. Is it true that you used your relationship with Charles Doncourt to obtain an internship at Lush Fertilizer?
I mean, as a senior in college, it's kind of hard to find a job, and obviously I need to like find somewhere to work. I need to provide for myself. So you always need like connection. So I guess, yeah, he provided some type of connection for me.
Is it also true that this position was extremely competitive?
What position? I was an intern when I started first working there.
Yes, your position as an intern. Is it true that this was an extremely competitive position within the company?
Like, sort of.
At the time of beginning this position, had you not only just graduated from college?
Or what?
Pardon?
Well, you said either, so I was wondering if there was a second part of that.
I said, had you not only just graduated from college?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, that's what I said.
Is it true that you were ranked highly in your class?
Yeah, I mean, I was a good student. I've always been a really hard worker.
But were you ranked particularly notably in terms of your academic performance at ASU?
I mean, I got a bachelor's in chemical engineering. I was a pretty good student.
Moving back to the topic of your employment, is it true that you maintained this position as an intern for an extended period of time, or did you go on to achieve another position quickly?
Yeah, I've always been a hard worker, so I was quickly promoted. Everyone liked my work. I worked hard. I produced good things.
So you rose through the ranks at a top fertilizer company despite having minimal experience.
Well, as all employees do. I mean, when you're first a college, when you're a college student, you go out into the world, not really know much, but I mean, you're an intern. So yeah, I did very quickly rise through my ranks because I worked hard.
But you were performing higher than more experienced engineers at one of the top producers in the industry.
And yes, I was doing very well.
Were any assessments of your performance in the workplace ever conducted?
Assessments? Well, could you expand on that?
Yes, any sort of annual performance reviews.
Yeah.
Did you ever receive a negative report?
I did towards the end of my career. At last.
Because colleagues evaluated that you only succeeded from your personal relationships with the Doncourt family.
I mean, jealousy gets the best of people. I was a very hard worker. I mean, I was a college student and I rose very quickly because of my hard work. So.
Your Honor, I object. I move to strike that answer as non-responsive.
It's close. I'll allow it at this point. The jury can do with it what it wishes.
Okay, I'll repeat my question. Because colleagues evaluated that you only succeeded from your personal relationships with the Doncourt family.
I'm confused, sorry.
A yes or no will suffice. Is that correct?
Objection.
Colleagues evaluated that you only succeeded from your personal relationships with the Doncourt family.
Objection.
What's the objection?
Leading on the
Yes.
witness.
Leading is allowed on cross-examination, counsel. Can you answer the question?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I'm still a little bit lost on what you mean by that.
Am I correct? Colleagues evaluated that you only succeeded within the workplace because of your personal relationships with the Doncourt family.
You know, not all of them, but I mean, as I stated earlier, I'm sure that they thought that my relationship with them was the only reason why I was rising through the ranks, but that wasn't true.
And you brought these concerns to Blake Doncourt, is that correct?
Yeah, we talked about my performance review.
And Blake reacted poorly, telling you you were lucky to even have your job.
He was going through a divorce at that period of time. I mean, it's understandable to be affected by your personal life.
Is that correct? He told you you were lucky to even have your job.
But he hired me. I mean, sure.
He said he'd overlooked students who graduated at the top of their class from Ivy League universities to hire you.
I was a hard worker. There
An
was no-
average performing student from Arizona State University, correct?
Offense taken. You know, I was a hard worker. I feel like that's kind of, ouch.
A yes or no will suffice. So you, in essence, lost the support of the person who got you your job. Is that correct?
Yeah, therefore, I left the company because I was a hard worker and there was just really no reason for him to feel that I wasn't.
Exactly. So you left to go work for Terra's Greenery. Is that correct?
I liked my, region of work, so I kept doing what I did.
Is it true that Terra's Greenery are Lush Fertilizer's biggest competitors?
Yeah, but I never really thought about it that way. It's just another region where I knew of. So it's like the same fertilizers,
And you took that job for the purpose of upsetting Blake Doncourt. Is that correct?
Not for the purpose of it.
Really? Do you have a copy of your witness statement in front of you?
I do not, but could you expand on your ideas?
Yes. Can you please confirm if you did attest that, quote, it turned out Terra's Greenery had some openings for product development engineers, so I applied. That would really get Blake's goat, I thought, end quote. In your words, you left the company and were also well aware of the fact that in doing so, you would likely upset Blake Doncourt.
I did say that. Blake was, he was dismissing me for the way that I felt. And obviously that's not okay to dismiss someone's feelings. So in the moment I was angry, and it's kind of hard to get past that if someone's dismissing you for the hard work that you've done, but then just kind of says that, you're lucky to have your position. It hurts you. So it wasn't solely for that purpose, and I never said that, but.
And now you're here today testifying against your former employer.
Sure.
Alleging that they're an evil corporation hungry for money, led by your former family friend, Blake Doncourt.
That has nothing to do with it. Honestly, they caused cancer, they knew it. So that's why I'm here today.
So this was the individual who refused to go easy on you when your work performance was deemed unsatisfactory. The individual who you claim is responsible for your cancer, correct?
I don't have cancer. But yeah, they do cause cancer. So that's why I'm here today telling them that they should have let everyone know that their agents have cancer-causing properties within them.
The man who betrayed you, even though you'd known him your whole life.
What?
Yes or no? Was this the man who had betrayed you despite your lifelong connection with him?
He didn't really betray me. It wasn't it wasn't like me and him feud, but if he does dismiss my work, it's definitely disheartening. So.
Thank you, Ms. Durst. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Durst, was Lush Fertilizer aware of the carcinogenic properties within their product?
Yes, most definitely.
And how do you know that for sure?
Because through several meetings, several in-house studies, and an email sent out to the company, including Mr. Doncourt, they were 100% aware.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. And Ms. Durst, as plaintiff, wish to call another witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand.
Could you please state your full name for the jury?
My full name is Dr. Casey Rogers.
Do you know the defendant in this case?
I do not.
Okay, and why are you here?
I'm here to talk about my opinion on chemicals and their effects, and specifically Drufo.
What do you do for a living?
I'm currently a professor of horticulture and entomology. Those are the studies of plants and the studies of insects.
Okay, and where do you work?
I work at UC Berkeley.
Could you please describe your education?
Sure. So I have a PhD in entomology and agriculture from UC Berkeley. I have my bachelor of science degree from CSU in agriculture and chemistry. And prior to earning my PhD, I worked for a large multinational research company.
Your Honor, do I have permission to screen share Exhibit 6 to lay foundation with the witness?
You do.
Dr. Rogers, in front of you is Exhibit 6. Could you please describe what this is?
Yes, Exhibit 6 is a copy of my current CV, which just sets forth my educational and professional background.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of your educational and professional background?
Yes, it is.
Did you prepare this document?
Yes,
And do you regularly update your CV?
of course.
Your Honor, I'd like to admit Exhibit 6 into evidence.
Any objection from the defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
Then it will stand admitted.
Have you published any research on exposure to chemicals?
Yes, I have published numerous scientific articles that talk about the negative and harmful effects that chemicals have if they are exposed to the body. I also talk about how that prolonged exposure plays a really critical piece in this, and I also talk about Drufo in these studies.
Okay, could you please turn to exhibit in front of you and describe what it is?
What exhibit?
Exhibit 7.
Yes.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of all the research that you have published?
Yes.
Did you draft this yourself?
Yes, I did.
And do you keep this in regular course of your business?
Well, as a professor, I have to keep this available, so of course I do.
Your Honor, I'd like to admit Exhibit 7 into evidence.
Any objection from the defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
Then it will be admitted.
Could you please describe exactly what you have published?
Yes, so Exhibit 7 has a record of my 6 scientific articles I published. 4 of them talk about Drufo, 2 of the effects of Drufo on plants, 2 of the effects of Drufo on humans, and then I have other 2 that talk about the exposure of chemicals on plants as well.
Okay, what specifically have you studied?
Specifically, I have studied the harmful effects prolonged exposure of chemicals have on the body.
Have you ever testified as an expert before?
No, I've not. This is my first time, but honestly, I'm hoping it won't be my last. As an educator, I love having more and more people learn about what I do and learning and growing. And I think this is such a great way to have so many people learn about what I'm studying and learn about the chemicals and these harmful effects. And I think I'm here today for a reason. And if I can warn people about these harmful effects, then hopefully things like Dakota's case won't happen again.
Are there some areas of your background that overlap with toxicology?
Yes, so I do have a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry. Also, I study the effects of chemicals on the body. I've studied this for years, and horticulture and entomology are actually, looking at it, they're the study of chemical products on the environment. So really, this has been my entire job for as long as I can remember.
And you have published studies that deal with the overlap, right?
Yes, of course.
Are you familiar with Drufo?
Yes, I've done extensive research on it because it caught my attention when it was first developed in 2003.
Your Honor, I would like to admit Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert in the fields of horticulture, pesticide chemistry, and toxicology with an emphasis on Drufo.
Any voir dire from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Good afternoon, Dr. Rogers.
Good afternoon.
Your PhD and bachelor's are in the study of entomology, agriculture, and chemistry, correct?
Yes, I have a PhD in entomology and agriculture and a Bachelor of Science degree in agriculture and chemistry.
Okay. Do these have anything to do with the study of carcinogens or chemicals specifically pertaining to the effects that they have on human or animal organisms?
Well, like I said, I am a professor of horticulture and entomology, and that really is just the study of the effects of these chemicals on the environment. Furthermore, I have studied specifically the chemicals. I do have a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry, so I'm able to see that. And I have done
Ma'am, is it the study of the effects that they have on human or animal organisms, not solely the environment?
Are you asking me if I have a PhD in the study of that?
Yes.
I don't have a PhD in the study of the effects of chemicals on humans or animals, no.
Okay. Your Honor, I have no objections to Dr. Rogers being entered in as an expert witness as long as they stay within the scope of entomology, agriculture, and chemistry. Although I do object to them being an expert of toxicology because they do not have substantial education or training in this field.
Miss, is it Goldmanis?
Yes.
Would you like to address that objection?
Yes, Your Honor, she already testified that her background overlaps with toxicology, and her entire practice is studying the effect of toxic pesticides on humans and plants. Specifically, she teaches a class on herbicide selectivity, which is the study of the toxic effects of fertilizers.
All right, I'll allow the witness to testify on all areas designated, subject to cross-examination, of course.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Rogers, why did Drufo catch your attention?
I believed it was rushed onto the market without any sufficient studies on its safety. I decided to do my own studies because I wanted to see if there were any harmful effects of this chemical on people, and I did this by studying the effects of Drufo over a long period of time.
What is Drufo?
So Drufo is a patent ingredient that Lush uses in all of its products as a bonding agent.
And why is it put in fertilizer?
Well, specifically, Drufo is used in fertilizer to keep the fertilizer preserved and intact.
Who developed it?
Drufo is actually developed by the Lush Fertilizer Inc. science team.
Does Drufo have any negative effects?
From my personal research, yes, it does.
What are they?
I found an increase in serious health conditions and diagnosis in individuals who were exposed to Drufo, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
What research have you done to figure out that Drufo has affected people other than Dakota?
I put together a study with 3 groups, one control group who was never exposed to Drufo, a group that was exposed to Drufo on occasion, and a group that was exposed to Drufo regularly. I then studied these 3 groups for a period of 4 years.
What were the results of your study?
Not surprisingly, this study found an increase in serious health issues, specifically those who were exposed to Drufo regularly. Those who were exposed to Drufo on a regular basis were 10 times more likely to get cancer than those who were not exposed. And they were also even 5 times more likely to get cancer than those who were exposed occasionally.
What did you conclude based off this data?
Well, clearly this research suggests there's a correlation between the exposure to Drufo and cancer.
Have you specifically studied non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
I'm not a medical doctor, so I haven't studied what actually happens in the body, but I have reviewed research that reveals that non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is caused generally by environmental factors.
Is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma genetic?
No, it is not.
Then what is it caused by?
Like I said, it is caused by exposure to environmental conditions, including pesticides, and sadly, it's not curable at this time.
In your studies, did you examine ways to prevent and minimize exposure to Drufo?
Yes.
Okay, what did your study show?
So exposure through contact via the skin and by breathing in the product were the main ways that Drufo was getting into people.
Earlier, you said that you made recommendations to companies on precautions that should be taken when coming in contact with Drufo. So what exactly were those recommendations?
Anyone working with Drufo should wear long sleeves, long pants, an N95 mask preferably, and make sure their nose and mouth is covered to make sure they're not breathing in the product.
Was there anything that stood out to you in Dakota Weir's medical and employment records that may have been a reason that she may have already had cancer?
No, she had a perfect bill of health.
Thank you. No further questions at this time.
Cross-examination?
Good evening again, Dr. Rogers.
Good afternoon.
Is it true that you worked as a research analyst prior to earning your PhD?
Yes, we're a large multinational research company.
And as a research analyst, meaning that you only analyzed the data, you didn't perform your own studies for this chemical company, correct?
Well, later on, I performed my own studies. I'm really proud of them. You know, everyone starts from somewhere, and I'm proud to say that I worked for this research analysis company, and then I was able to go get my PhD. And once I had that extra knowledge, I was able to create my own studies.
Okay, but yes or no, you did not perform your own studies with this chemical company?
That wasn't my job there.
Okay. And you mentioned that you performed a study of your own analyzing the effects of harmful substances, and Drufo was on that list of harmful substances, correct?
Yeah.
All right. You don't believe that the other harmful chemicals that your test subjects were also exposed to could have been the real cause of the illness?
So I'm assuming you're referring to my study where I studied them over a long period of years. I don't, because those other chemicals were not a factor in this study, and our variable was Drufo. So yes, we didn't have full control over all the other environmental conditions that could be involved, but it's fair to say that they could be pretty much equal across the board. They could all be exposed to them. And since our variable was Drufo, we're not looking at those other chemicals. We're looking at that. And so we can safely assume that Drufo had that effect.
So in your study, you did use everyday farmers, gardeners, and people. So do you have any way of proving that Drufo, out of all of the other harmful chemicals that they do come into contact with, is the chemical that caused the cancer?
Well, basically all the other environmental conditions were relatively the same, and we were studying Drufo. So it's safe to say that it is likely that Drufo was the cause of these, especially if they're all using lush fertilizer. They all have the same ingredients in them.
Mm-hmm. Among the other harmful chemicals they were using.
Pesticides, I'm guessing, is what you're referring to.
Dr. Rogers, you also found in your study that non-Hodgkin's lymphoma was only one of the incidences of cancer. Is that correct?
Yes, there's multiple health conditions related to Drufo.
Okay, well, let's take a step back and talk about the study of carcinogenic effects of Drufo on rats. You knew about this study prior to performing your own study, correct?
Yeah, I was really interested in this. This made me want to do my own research and see if this fact was actually true, and I wanted to see it in humans as well, because I realized how important this was and how not a lot of people were talking about it, and I wanted to make sure that people were safe.
So you already had an idea of the supposed effects of Drufo before performing your independent study, correct?
I don't know what you're referring to, but I did see the trial, and that did want me to conduct my own research, but it was only based off, the reason I thought that was because it was based off credible research. I still conducted my own studies completely fair. And yeah.
Yes, doctor, I am referring to the possibility that you could have formed conclusions on the supposed effects of the carcinogenic effects on rats before you conducted your study. Do you believe that could be a possibility?
Absolutely not. I actually think that's a really interesting point you could try and bring up, because the fact is, I did my own research and it's clear. And, if the study showed that carcinogenics, or Drufo specifically, didn't affect humans negatively, why would I put that false info out there? If you're referring to me and claiming that I'm biased, I think that's ridiculous. I'm a teacher. You cannot be biased if you're a teacher. I'm also a researcher. And honestly, I'm kind of disheartened that you would think that. Sure, I saw that study, but that sparked my own interest. If I just wanted to go off that, I wouldn't have done my own studies and my own research. Originally, I thought it was rushed into the market without sufficient evidence that it was safe. And I saw that in rats. Rats are different from humans. So I did a test on different subjects that are humans. These are people that are getting harmed by this. And that's all I want to do here. I just want to spread awareness for this. So something like what happened to Dakota doesn't happen again.
Dr. Rogers, let's continue talking about your study. And again, refer to Exhibit 7 if you need to of your published works. Is your study one of your published works listed on your curriculum vitae?
What study? The study over the prolonged period of years?
The study that you performed.
I do not believe so. These are my scientific journals.
Exhibit 7.
Yeah, sorry, it is on there. Sorry. I wasn't understanding your question.
Your published works, take a look at it, please.
Yep.
Is your study on there?
Yes.
Can you read the title of the study?
The Evidence of Human Exposure to Drufo, a review, the environmentalist. It was conducted it was finished in 2019. I'm so sorry, I didn't understand your question before.
I believe that is published as a review, not as a study. That includes your personal conclusions about the study.
It talks about my scientific research conclusions of the study, but because they are made by me, I guess they are personal, but they're research conclusions. I didn't just come up with them in my head.
Okay. Doctor, did you ever have your study specifically peer-reviewed or analyzed by other researchers?
Are you talking about the study in 2019?
Your study that you conducted on the effects of Drufo.
So the one in 2019?
Yes.
No, I didn't, but I didn't need to. I did my own research. And this was a scientific journal, and they don't need to be peer reviewed. So.
Okay. Doctor, as a part of your study, you wanted to find out whether the protective equipment you prescribed would counteract the supposed effects of Drufo, but those results ended up being inconclusive because there was insufficient time to study the long-term efficacy of the protected equipment. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. So you had time to study the effects of harmful chemicals and Drufo, but you did not have time to study the effects of protective equipment.
Well, I think you have to understand when doing a study like this, there's a lot of factors that go into it. And
Do you have time to study the effectiveness or not?
I was just answering that before you cut me off. So I did that because I was doing that. And studying Drufo and those carcinogenics where you just have them do what they're doing already and then testing them is much easier than ensuring that they are wearing that protective equipment. To do that, we would need employees to go out and check and make sure every single person's doing that. And that is really hard. That takes up time, that takes up money. I first wanted to get this study done, and then in the future, I hope to do that, but it takes time.
Okay.
So.
And then just to be clear, you are making all of your conclusions based off of just your study, correct?
Well, it is my study, so I should probably make conclusions off of it.
Okay. Finally, just to be very, very clear, you have no formal medical education or experience?
Are you talking about as a medical doctor?
Yes, you do not have any medical education or experience, is that correct?
I'm not a medical doctor.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Rogers, why do you think your study is valid?
I'm glad you asked me this. By placing people in these three categories that I did, and then studying what the effect of Drufo had on that diagnosis of cancer, I was in fact isolating them because we can assume that their environmental exposure was roughly the same across the board. Otherwise, so by categorizing them based on their exposure to Drufo, that is exactly what allows us to see these effects of Drufo on cancer. And there was only one variable, and that variable was Drufo. And based on my research, Drufo causes cancer.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. No further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Dr. Rogers? Does plaintiff have another witness to put on?
Yes, Your Honor. Dakota Weirs, please.
All right, Ms. Weirs, are you here to testify?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense counsel, are you prepared?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, direct, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us a little bit about why you were here?
Yeah, I'm here because I'm a 20-year-old with cancer, which I believe was caused by Lush fertilizer. I was healthy, I had my whole future ahead of me, and now I have cancer, which was caused by this company. And I'm here to make sure that that doesn't happen to anybody else.
You said you were 20 years old, so you just graduated from high school, right?
I did.
Can you talk a little bit about your high school experience?
Sure. I was very active in school. I was the student government president, and I was also part of the NHS at my school.
Did you do any other extracurricular activities outside of school?
Piano has had a very serious impact on my life. Ever since I was a little girl, I've played the piano, and I've gotten so good I received a scholarship to Juilliard.
Who influenced your love of the piano?
Well, I just have all these memories from being a baby and crawling under the piano while it was being played and looking at and seeing my grandfather. I'd always dreamed of becoming a person like him, and I thought I'd pursue my dream because I got my scholarship to Juilliard, which is like the most prestigious school, and it's an honor getting accepted there. And I remember getting so excited that I was going to live my dream, and my grandfather was going to be so proud of me. And then my grandfather was going.
Do you have a good relationship with your other family members?
I've always had a somewhat steady relationship with my father, yeah. Ever since I was diagnosed with cancer, he's helped me research the product, Lush fertilizer, and has helped me through this whole thing.
What about your other family members?
Yeah, I have a twin, Skylar, with whom I've never been particularly close with, and my mother was absent for most of my life.
So you weren't very close with your twin. Would you consider that a rivalry?
Yeah, you could call it that.
Can you talk a little bit about that rivalry?
Yeah, as I said, we were never close. He works as a freelance writer and has done a lot of work on the safety of Drufo, making me nervous that the court will believe him instead of me, even though he wasn't really an expert.
You said he was a freelance writer. What stuff did he write about?
Yeah, he's written about all these crazy things like UFOs, the flat earth theory, and chemtrails.
Thanks. Let's turn to a different subject. What was your job? What did you do outside of school?
Haven Landscaping was my previous job. I worked as a landscaping technician at Havenly since I was 14 years old. So Haven and piano were really my only other priorities outside of school.
How did you interact with Drufo at Havenly Landscaping?
I was responsible for spreading the fertilizer and seed because I wasn't old enough to use the big machineries.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your work experience over the years?
Yeah, I love my job, but it was too hot to wear. It was hot. It was too hot to wear protective clothing, but I can assure you that I wasn't the only one doing so. Yeah, I was told several times to wear the correct items to protect my skin, but it was hot. And of course, I would have worn the protective clothing if I'd known that Lush could cause cancer.
Did you have a good relationship with your boss at Haven Landscaping?
Yeah, actually, when I found out that Lush fertilizer could cause cancer, my boss sent me a picture of an old fertilizer package.
Why doesn't your twin, Skylar, work there?
He's allergic to grass.
You said that you and your father did some research on Lush. Can you tell us a little bit about what you learned?
Yeah, well, I was watching TV one day and actually saw something about Lush fertilizer and their main ingredient, Drufo, and someone had leaked documents which revealed that the business had lied about the safety of its drugs. And I was surprised because I remember working with this fertilizer, so I quickly called my father after seeing the article. And I also contacted my former boss, and he sent me a picture of the old packaging to see if it was Lush that I was using, and it was.
Your Honor, I would like to admit Exhibit 1 into evidence.
What's Exhibit 1? Any objections from the defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
Miss Weirs, what exactly does this label show?
It shows that it's a Lush fertilizer label.
Is this an accurate label?
Yeah, this is the label that my boss over at Haven sent to me when I asked him for it.
What exactly does this label show?
Well, I remember this is the exact label that I used while working at Haven, and the ingredients are listed, but there aren't any warnings.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to why you are here. Do you need the money?
Oh, well, I'm not suing for the money specifically. I'm suing to stop the production of Lush fertilizer so no one can end up like me. First and foremost, no one should have to suffer like I've suffered. My poor father shouldn't have to pay for everything for the rest of my life. So the main reason I'm here is to make sure that nobody else suffers like this. And as you can tell, I can't even answer these questions without having to take several breaths throughout. I got into Juilliard, but I can't even sit for 10 minutes because it hurts to sit. So I'm not suing for the money, but it could help me in the future.
You are a 20-year-old with cancer. How does that make you feel?
Well, I feel lost and I don't know what the future will hold. My life's been ruined and I'm depressed and I just want them to stop. I want this all to stop, what they've done to me, and who knows who else they've done this to. And quite frankly, I don't even know if I'll have a future or how soon I may die. Lush fertilizer has taken it away.
Your Honor, no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Weirs, you were recently diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And is it true you believe your condition was caused by Lush fertilizer?
For a variety of reasons, I do believe Lush caused my cancer, yeah.
Your Honor, may my timekeeper share their screen with Exhibit 1?
Of course.
Timekeeper. Thank you. Now, could you please read the user safety recommendation posted on the packaging?
Sure. Would you like me to read it out loud or in my head?
Yes, out loud would be amazing.
As with any spray fertilizer, utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin. Use a respirator or N95 mask is recommended. Follow manufacturer's instructions for cleaning and maintaining personal protective equipment.
Thank you. Now, yes or no, did you follow the safety recommendation on the package when you handled Lush fertilizer?
I didn't, but if I had known I would live this quality of life, I would have, but.
So, and is it true that your boss at Haven Landscaping advised you to wear protective equipment?
Well, as a boss, I feel like he was required to say that, but he didn't really know why, but he did.
And is it true that you worked with many other chemicals and fertilizers during your time at Haven Landscaping?
Yeah, we did.
Timekeeper, you may take down the exhibit. And did you wear any protective equipment around the other chemicals you were exposed to at your work?
Well, it was in the middle of summer. It was over 100 degrees outside. It was too hot to be wearing long sleeves, pants, gloves, and face coverings. I would have done things differently if I had known that Lush fertilizer could cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma, but I didn't.
So finally, Ms. Weirs, how can you be sure that your disease was caused by Lush fertilizer and not many of the other chemicals that you handled without proper safety precautions?
Well, non-Hodgkin lymphoma is not genetic, so if it were, my brother would have it too, but he doesn't.
And you're sure of that?
I'm sure, yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Is there any more time for a redirect? 45 seconds. Would you like to do any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
45 seconds. Go ahead.
Would you have worn the protective clothing, Miss Weirs?
Would I have worn the protective clothing? Do not think I think about that.
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Open-ended question.
And
Your Honor.
questions are appropriate for direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you need the question read back
Uh,
or repeated?
would you have worn the protective clothing, Miss Weirs?
I worn the protective clothing. Do you not think I think about that every single day? And I should have just worn the protective clothing. And if I did, I wouldn't be here today with cancer. Of course, I would have worn the clothing. That's all I ever think about. Every minute of every single day. Is it my fault? I don't know. But if I had known that this is where I would be, I would have worn the protective clothing. But yeah.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, counsel. Is the defense ready to present their first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Blake Doncourt to the stand.
We have counsel for the plaintiff who will be cross-examining. There you are. Excellent. Ms. Doncourt, you know that you are still under the same oath that you gave at the outset of this trial?
Yes, I do.
All right. Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Doncourt, can you please state your first and spell your last name for the jury?
Yes, my name is Blake Doncourt. That's Doncourt.
Hello, Ms. Doncourt. What is your occupation?
I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Lush Fertilizer.
And when did you start as the Chief Executive Officer?
In 2000.
What would you say is your most profitable product at Lush Fertilizer?
Lush Fertilizer itself, it's used by government groups, companies, individuals. It really, in my personal opinion, it promotes the American dream. You know, green grass is a huge part of that ideal, and we deliver that to people all over the country.
Now, Ms. Doncourt, how much of your profit do you donate to charity?
Well, I'm very happy to say that because we have been so successful, we are able to donate a relatively large 10% of our annual profits to charity each year. And we also have our own charity foundation that's dedicated to cleaning the most polluted areas of our oceans.
And do you know what Dakota Weirs is accusing you of?
I do. I know that Ms. Dakota Weirs is here falsely accusing me and my company of putting a carcinogenic agent in Lush Fertilizer.
And was Lush aware of this so-called carcinogen before this case was brought up?
Well, we are aware of the ingredient itself, Drufo. It's a bonding agent in our fertilizer, but carcinogenic it is not.
And did you do any testing in your product before putting it on the market?
Yes, we did extensive testing. It would be incredibly irresponsible if we didn't. Extensive research and testing was done by us and the company, and the product was approved by the EPA. No carcinogenic properties, no hazardous properties, nothing.
And was there any requirement of the federal government to put a warning on your product?
Nope, there was no substantial risk of any harm that would come to our customers unless they, poured it directly into their eyes. So we were okay.
And if you had found any harmful chemicals in your product, would you have put a warning on the product?
Immediately. We wouldn't have hesitated. If there had been any reason to do so, we wouldn't have risked harming any of our customers.
Have you heard of Dr. Casey Rogers?
I have. He is who the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, has hired to testify that Drufo is in fact carcinogenic.
Do you know about her study?
I do. The study that was not peer-reviewed or published in any scientific journal that she is singularly using to purport the idea that Drufo is a carcinogen.
Do you believe Dr. Rogers' findings are in any way valid?
No, I think if they were valid, and if Dr. Rogers actually had confidence in the fact that they were valid, that they would be peer-reviewed or published in any scientific journal, but they're not. And so there's no reason to think that they are. Additionally, again, we have done our own extensive research and testing on this product.
and our results directly oppose those of Dr. Rogers' study.
Do you feel bad for Dakota Weirs?
Of course I do. I wouldn't wish non-Hodgkin's lymphoma on anyone, let alone a 20-year-old with such a bright future ahead of her. And even more, I feel bad for her because she's being taken advantage of by Ms. Carson Durst here today.
Do you feel in any way that you or Lush Fertilizer had anything to do with her disease?
No, I don't. From what I understand, Dakota worked as a landscaping technician where she was exposed to many other fertilizing products, many other chemicals. I mean, without testing those, without hearing about what those were specifically, there's no way to know if those chemicals could have possibly caused her non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, or possibly some other chemical that she was exposed to aside from her job. But I know that Lush Fertilizer does not contain any carcinogens.
Moving on, what was your relationship to Carson Durst?
Yes, Carson Durst was a former employee of mine. She started as an intern for Lush Fertilizer and then became a member of our research and development team.
Do you know about her claims regarding the risks of Drufo?
I do. Claims that Drufo is a dangerous carcinogen. Claims that conveniently only came up after she'd been fired from Lush Fertilizer and started working for our competitive company, Terrace Greenery.
Do you believe her claims?
No, there's no reason to believe her claims. There's actually, I'm sorry, this gets me so riled up. She was hired for Lush Fertilizer as a member of our research and development team. Her job was to tell us if she thought there was any reason to suspect our company or our products of being dangerous. Okay, that was her job. We relied on her as a member of that team to make sure our products were safe. And she said nothing. If she truly thought that was the case, and she said nothing to anyone while she was working at Lush Fertilizer, that would be so incredibly irresponsible. And that's how I know, okay, that these claims are entirely false, because these claims weren't brought up until after she had been fired. And she's clearly just looking for a way to line her pockets.
Why did Carson Durst leave Lush Fertilizer?
Carson Durst left Lush Fertilizer because she was incompetent, because she wasn't working nearly as hard as she could have, because she was honestly taking advantage of my own kindness for years.
Objection, relevance.
Any response?
Well, Your Honor, it's relevant to the fact of Ms. Durst's bias in the case and how that may affect her testimony in this case.
Okay, I'll let the jury weigh the testimony. So I'll overrule the objection.
Now, Ms. Doncourt, who did she work for after she left Lush?
Terrace Greenery.
Are Lush and Terrace Greenery competitors?
We are competitors, but at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily call us good competition. Lush Fertilizer is a very successful company. Our trademark product, Lush Fertilizer, is extremely successful and used all over the world, really. But Terrace Greenery doesn't hold much stake in that competition.
Do you believe that Terrace Greenery is using this lawsuit for money and defamation?
Yeah, I think that's a huge reason of why Carson Durst is here today. Also, I've heard rumors that a new product by Terrace Greenery is about to be released, a fertilizer that's extremely similar to our own, but that they claim is completely safe and carcinogen-free. Seems convenient.
Objection, relevance.
In response?
Well, again, Your Honor, this is a question of the bias that Carson Durst has in this case, and to prove that he was generally immature and uses the lawsuit for defamation.
Okay, I'll allow it based on the relevance objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination.
You are currently the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, correct?
I am.
And you actually founded the company.
Yes, I did.
You had to go out and get venture capitalists to help you start up this company, right?
Yeah. Yes, I did. But it's grown into such an amazingly successful company. I mean, now we're able to donate 10% of our annual profits to charities, and we are pioneers in the environmentalist world. So I'm incredibly proud of the work we've done.
And you've put in tons of work and effort into building up your company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you believe there are no cancer-causing chemicals in your product.
I know there are no cancer-causing chemicals in our product.
Isn't it true that you do not bake your fertilizer?
We don't, because see, one, we have no risk of carcinogens in our product. Extensive research and testing was done, and our product was approved by the EPA. There was no reason to believe that there were any carcinogenic properties in our product. So baking it would be useless and futile and a waste of resources.
Even though you knew there could be extra safety benefits, you still did not bake it, right?
Yeah, because there was no reason to.
And you say that baking fertilizer is costly, is that correct?
It is, but understand, I am not a desperate woman. Okay, I have an incredibly successful company. I'm financially comfortable, all right? I don't need to risk my customers developing cancer just so that I can make a few extra bucks.
You acknowledge that you increased your profits by not baking the fertilizer, is that correct?
Yeah, because baking it does cost money, but it's not substantial gain.
Ms. Doncourt, what is Exhibit 8?
I don't know, I'm not looking at it right now.
Could you please pull it up in front of you? Do you have a copy of Exhibit 8 in front of you?
Yeah, I'll have to find it. Okay. So I'm just rotating. Yep, looking at it.
This is a copy of the financial table you made, correct?
Yes.
And you drafted this yourself, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to enter Exhibit 8 into evidence.
Any objections? I'm sorry.
Objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation. The plaintiff's attorney has yet to ask the witness any sort of foundation on the matter.
I tend to agree. Can you lay a little bit more foundation for that, counsel?
Yes. Ms. Doncourt, you drafted this financial table in 2004, is that correct?
Yes.
And this was just based off of your vision of how your company would, your financials and your company would tend to succeed, correct?
Yeah, it's a 10-year projection.
Yes. So you drafted this yourself, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered question.
Okay.
Go ahead. Let's move along.
Okay. You have personal knowledge of Exhibit 8, correct?
Yeah, I created it.
Yes. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Exhibit 8 into evidence because I have laid foundation.
Any objection at this point?
Yes, Your Honor. Again, objection, lack of foundation. The plaintiff's attorney has yet to ask the witness if they believe the exhibit is still an accurate copy and accurately reflects what their profit projections would look like.
All right. Well, I'm going to let it in, and if you have any questions in that regard, you can certainly ask them on redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Doncourt, Exhibit 8 said that you were making around $1.6 million in 2004 by cutting out the baking process. Is that correct?
Yes.
By incorporating the baking process, you would have in fact made $1.4 million instead of 1.6. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Doncourt, you are the sole owner of that company, so that money is your money, right?
Yeah, it's my money.
So you don't think $1.4 million is enough to be making in 2004?
I do.
Okay. In fact, this number continued to increase over a period of 10 years. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it did. I mean, this is exactly it. I would have been fine if I had baked the fertilizer, but there was no need to. And honestly, it's a waste of our resources, and it isn't very fair to the people who work for me if I have to, cut down their profits and their if I have to cut down my employees' wages, if I have to make
Yes.
changes to the way we
This
run
number-
things, it's not.
This number continued to increase over a period of 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you were thinking about these additional profits that you were making when you drafted Exhibit 8, right?
Yes.
And you testified that you needed those additional profits to pay back the investors. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
Let's talk about your financial situation. Isn't it true that you're also paying your ex-spouse a significant amount of money every month?
I am. I
Can you
don't really love to talk about it. It's a bit of a sore spot, but if we're going to discuss it, yeah. I recently went through a divorce. I am paying my ex-spouse a certain amount of money every month. And
Thank you,
despite that, I'm still very financially comfortable and I'm able to direct 10% of my profits every year from Lush Fertilizer to charity.
Yes. And you guys used to share a lake house, right?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You guys used to share a lake house, right? You and your ex-spouse?
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Relevance.
Okay, Ms. Goldmanis, can you explain why this is relevant?
Your Honor, this is relevant because Ms. Doncourt has bias due to her financial situation.
Not sure how the loss of a lake house would affect her financial situation. So I'll sustain the objection at this point.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Doncourt, at the same time, you are also supporting your new partner, correct?
Mhm.
And you're making contributions to charity, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, thank you. So despite all this money that you apparently haven't spent, you decided not to make the DRUFO to be able to repay your investors.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I've been telling you.
Mhm.
I am so comfortable and so secure. All right. I am fine. I'm not desperate. I'm not going to risk the lives of all of my customers. I'm not going to risk them developing cancer just because I need a little extra money. I don't need that money. I'm
And you
fine.
still, despite all this extra money, decided not to incorporate the baking process after you had repaid your investors.
Yeah, because there was no
Objection,
reason.
Your Honor. Asked and answered question. The question doesn't expand.
Let's move on.
Thank you. No further questions at this time.
Any redirect, counsel?
No, Your Honor. No redirect at this time.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Oncourt. And next witness for the defense.
The defense calls Skylar Weirs to the stand. All right. Welcome. Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Skylar Weirs. That is Skylar spelled with an E, then Weirs, W-E-I-R-S. My pronouns are he, him.
Wonderful. And how are you related to Dakota Weirs?
Dakota is my twin sibling.
So Skylar, what do you do for a living?
I'm an investigative journalist and freelancer, and I've written several notable articles regarding the conflicts that exist between individual health and corporate policy. I write for a magazine called The Rationalist, which is a quarterly science education and science advocacy magazine.
That's awesome. Can you tell me a little bit more about what The Rationalist really promotes?
We're dedicated to combating the spread of pseudoscience, superstition, and irrational beliefs. We want our readers to question all of the jargon they hear and consider what's really happening in the world.
So what's your connection to the binding agent DRUFO?
I was selected by my editor to write a series of articles about modern agritech, and DRUFO was one facet of that project.
So what sort of research did you do for that series?
I read articles regarding I read articles published by different agritech companies, and then I cross-checked the studies that were referenced within those articles. I also found a plethora of information from the United States United States Department of Agriculture and the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture.
So how much time collectively did you really spend collecting this research?
I spent nearly a year. I recognize how political and nuanced this field is, so I wanted to make sure that I got the full picture before I began writing articles.
Mhm. Your Honor, I move to enter Skylar Weirs as an expert witness in the field of agritech on the basis of his research and prominent publications in this field.
Any objections, counsel?
Objection, lack of personal knowledge.
I believe this issue was resolved via pretrial motion. Is that right, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. According to Rule of Evidence number 702, an individual doesn't need to hold like a specific degree or a training certificate to be an expert witness. They can be qualified based on knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education. And considering the fact that this witness has had a year of experience collecting research for this project, they have considerable knowledge and experience regarding this case.
Your Honor, permission to do a voir dire.
Sure.
Mr. Weirs, you didn't go to college.
I might not have, but does that mean I can't have my own general info, my historical knowledge, and my statistical knowledge?
You never got a formal education in agritech and journalism?
No, I did not. But again, that doesn't mean that I don't know anything. You know,
And you didn't attend medical school?
I didn't.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
Let the voir dire continue. Go ahead and answer the question.
Can you repeat your question? Sorry.
You never attended medical school?
I did not. But again, I have found so much information regarding this topic that I know what I am talking about.
Huh. And you've never treated anybody in a clinic, like medically?
No, I have not, but still, I know a lot about modern agritech and what DRUFO really is.
And you, just to clarify, you weren't a part of your school newspaper?
I do not know.
Objection, Your Honor. Rule 702, the witness is just someone who surfs the internet. And that's her sole qualification, and she lacks sufficient background to be taken as an expert in this field.
Okay. Well, counsel, I'll refer you both back to my pretrial ruling. And I stated by offer of proof, the defendant asserts it can show Skylar Weirs spent considerable time researching agritech companies by reviewing publications written by those companies, research studies referenced in those publications, and information maintained by the USDA and NASDA. If such facts are confirmed at trial, they are sufficient to establish the witness has specialized knowledge beyond that held by the average juror, and the witness will be allowed to provide testimony on Rule 702 regarding agritech. I believe the witness has met the burden I set forth in the pretrial ruling. While I appreciate the objection, counsel, it's overruled and the witness will be recognized.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may proceed with opinion testimony.
So, Mr. Weirs, what has your research shown about DRUFO?
DRUFO is an amazing facet of modern agritech, and it allows for a much smaller amount of fertilizer and less fertilizer to be applied to plants in order to achieve the desired effect, and also gets rid of the need of pesticide.
And how would you consider the efficacy of DRUFO as a binding agent?
It's very efficient. It will bind to the plants and to the nitrogen so that the nitrogen will not run off as easily and seep into waterways and other things.
So how does DRUFO work?
It binds to both the grass and the active ingredients in lush fertilizer, and those ingredients are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. DRUFO is also safer because it reduces the solubility of the fertilizer.
And why would that make DRUFO fertilizer safer?
it makes sure that the nitrogen does not contaminate any ground waterways.
Are there any other benefits to using Drufo within a fertilizer?
Yes, it counts as its own pesticide, and it makes sure that you aren't being exposed to other more harmful chemicals, such as arsenic and glyphosate, and it adds to Drufo's safety.
How so?
I don't know of any real data that connects Drufo to cancer with any level of certainty, but the International Agency for Research on Cancer recognizes arsenic, a common ingredient within what's the word? It's pesticide. Sorry, I don't know why I can't say pesticide. But arsenic is a common ingredient in pesticide, and so is glyphosate. And those are both very harmful chemicals that Drufo reduces the person's exposure to.
So do you, as an expert witness, support lush fertilizer?
I do, and it's certain to me that they are committed to reducing the effects of excess nitrogen. And they donate 10% of their profits to reducing nitrogen contamination in groundwater agricultural communities. And that's what really got me interested in lush fertilizer in the first place. And then Blake also started a charity to clean the dead zones in places like Gulf of Mexico that are caused by the overuse of fertilizers that don't have an effective bonding agent.
So what do you think is really the paramount cause of the incidents that caused this trial to occur in the first place?
In my expert opinion, I believe this was the owner of Haven Landscaping's fault. Protective measures should always be worn to prioritize the safety of the workers, let alone a teenager.
Thank you, Mr. Weirs. We appreciate your testimony. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Weirs, you work as a journalist, is that correct?
Yes, I do, for The Rationalist.
Yeah, okay. And The Rational magazine is devoted to promoting scientific skepticism?
It is. It allows our readers to get a different side of the topic so that it's up to them to create their own
resisting
side.
the spread of pseudoscience.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
And resisting the spread of pseudoscience?
Yes.
And superstition?
Yes.
And irrational beliefs?
Yes, that is what the magazine does.
Yet, Mr. Weirs, you've you've written about UFOs.
I have, yes.
And you've published—
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
Any response?
Your Honor, this is relevant because it goes towards his expert status and shows that he's not as qualified.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Sure.
I see no reason as to why my witness's experience speaking about UFOs has anything to do with his testimony on agritech. And additionally, you could have included this in your voir dire, but this witness has already been entered as an expert witness, so his credibility should not be questioned at this time.
Any response?
No, I stand on my objection.
To your point, Ms. Fendrich, I think credibility of a witness is always at issue, both before and after they're qualified. So I'll let the questions stand.
And lastly, you've published on chemical trails.
Yes, but again, it's all showing our readers a different side of the story that they don't hear a lot of so that they can make their own decisions.
And to recap, you've been brought in as an expert on this case.
Yes, I have.
And as you've already told us, you didn't even graduate from college.
As I've already told you, I have not graduated from college, but I've spent a year researching, and I have found so much general info, so much statistical and historical info that I assure you, I know what I'm talking about.
You're currently working at Applebee's?
As a part-time server, yes, but I don't see how that qualifies or how that matters.
You stated your father cut you off because you didn't go to college.
He did cut me off. Once my first article made a big splash, I decided to put college on hold so that I could continue this career as a writing journalist.
And as far as you know, your sister Dakota is still receiving funds from your father?
Yes, she is.
Being cut off could lead to financial hardship, in your opinion.
It could.
And you also mentioned that you were in a financial slump due to gambling on March 9th.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
What's the relevance of that, counsel?
Your Honor, this is relevant because it goes towards his bias towards his sister. Yes.
If you could explain why that goes to bias. I'm having a hard time with that.
May I please have a second to deliberate with my co-counsel?
Briefly.
Your Honor, this is relevant because, like I said, it goes towards his bias and his sister, saying his sister's rivalry with him. And this just shows his bias in the case and his true motives about this whole situation.
Not sure how gambling is relevant, so I'll sustain the objection this time.
Did you participate in outside activities?
No, I did not. I was allergic to grass, so I could not work at Haven Landscaping like my sister did.
And you didn't work at Haven Landscaping, just to recap?
No, I did not.
Your sister's your fraternal twin.
Yes, she is.
And you yourself have not been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
No, I have not.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
He's already answered the question. Let's move on.
So Dakota worked in the agricultural profession.
Yes, she did.
And you didn't.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
I'll move on. Is it fair to say Dakota has been exposed to more Drufo than you?
Well, exposed to more Drufo and also exposed to so many more chemicals that could have been in so many more of our products.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your research. You are not aware of any study that has been established a causal link between Drufo and cancer with any level of certainty.
No, I'm not aware.
You heard our expert, Dr. Rogers, testify about the year-long study she performed on the effects of Drufo on humans, right?
Yes, I was here.
Mr. Weirs, could you please go to Exhibit 7?
Hold on. I'm at Exhibit 7.
And could you read along with me the title of the study?
Which study?
The one published in 2019 in The Environmentalist.
Yes. Do you want me to read or do you want to read?
You can read it.
Okay. The Evidence of Human Exposure to Drufo, a review, The Environmentalist, by Dr. Casey Rogers.
And you also didn't mention the UK rat study that Carson Durst found, did you?
I was not aware of that study.
So in your year-long research, you didn't find any of this?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
I don't think that particular question was asked and answered, so I'll let it stand. Please answer.
Sorry. Please restate the question.
But you didn't find any of this in your year-long research, did you?
I could not. I was looking at more based sources such as the USDA and the NASDA who have significant.
You would consider modern-day agricultural products to be risky.
I would.
And pesticides and herbicides are by definition poison.
Yes, they are.
And their intended function is to kill.
Yes, they are, but
No further
with-
questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor, briefly. Mr. Weirs, why are you here today?
I am here today to stop another GMO hit or another GMO hit job. I'm here to make sure that Drufo will not fall to just another old guard of the agri-tech culture.
And has your relationship with your sister ever been a conflict of interest with your employment?
No, and I love my sister and I would love to support Dakota on this case, but I cannot sit here and watch another helpful chemical get thrown away by another PR campaign.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Weirs, does the defendant have another witness to call?
Yes, Your Honor, I would like to call to the stand Dr. Devin Williams.
All right, Dr. Williams, you've been sworn in already.
Yes, Your
All
Honor.
right. Counsel, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, doctor. Can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the jury?
Of course. My name is Devin Williams, spelled Williams.
And where are you currently employed, doctor?
I currently work at Lush Fertilizer as the head of toxicology and development labs.
Can you just describe your job to the jury? What kind of things are you in charge of?
Well, I study the way that biological systems react to fertilizers that Lush Fertilizer produces. This includes any possible health concerns, such as in the case of this trial, as well as environmental impacts of our fertilizers.
And when did you start with Lush?
I've worked at Lush for over a decade now, but for the last 7 years, I've led our toxicology and development labs.
And what education do you have to be qualified for this type of work?
Well, I have my undergrad through PhD from Colorado State University. I also did a post PhD program in pharmacotoxicology at the University of Utah, and I have multiple additional certifications in Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Utah, and you can find all of those on my CV, which is one of the exhibits.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to ask my timekeeper to show what is marked as Exhibit 9 for identification.
Yep.
All right, and when it is pulled up, let me know if you recognize this exhibit, Doctor.
Yes, I recognize this exhibit. This is my CV. It has my education, some of my additional experiences, and just lists my qualifications.
And does this exhibit fairly and accurately represent the education, experience, and other certifications that you have received?
Yes, yes, it does.
Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibit 9 into evidence.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
It shall be admitted.
Doctor, what are some things that you have learned or done through your schooling and experience?
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit during that first part. Would you mind repeating yourself?
Yeah. What are just some important things you've learned through schooling and experience?
Well, I've really learned how to research and evaluate test results to determine the effects of potentially toxic chemicals. I have also extensively analyzed human samples, experiments with people in a clinical setting to determine the roles of toxic chemicals in our fertilizers.
All right. Your Honor, I move to enter Dr. Devin Williams as an expert witness in the fields of pharmacology, and forensic psychology on the basis of her education, experience, and certifications in these fields.
Any objection?
Your Honor, permission of voir dire.
Proceed.
Dr. Williams, you lead the toxicology research and development labs at Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Yes, I've been doing that for the last 7 years.
Right. So you studied the forensic toxicology and the effects of poison prior to Lush, correct?
Yes. As
But you
part of my
aren't-
education.
But you aren't a medical doctor.
No, I have a PhD. That's where I get my doctor qualification from.
But you have never treated a patient in a medical setting?
No, I don't treat patients. I'm
you.
more of.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Do you object to the expert designation?
No.
All right, the witness will be recognized and may give opinion testimony. Counsel?
All right, Doctor, let's move on to the fertilizer in question. What do most common fertilizers do to the environment?
Would you mind repeating that?
Sorry. Again, let me know if I have any more technical difficulties. But what do most common fertilizers do to the environment, Doctor?
That's a great question. Fertilizers are very important. They help increase our crop yields. However, most fertilizers are known to increase the amount of nitrates in our soil. This is due to eutrophication. It's just the I'm sorry, did I hear an objection or?
Ms.
Okay,
Lively, are you making an objection?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'll continue. So eutrophication is the buildup of excessive nutrients in bodies of water, and it's caused by agricultural runoff. The nitrogen that is in fertilizers can be converted to nitrates by bacteria in the soil. These nitrates are carried into streams, then rivers, lakes, oceans, and it messes up the biological systems in place.
Objection. Relevance.
Any response?
Your Honor, I'm just trying to between the fertilizers and the fertilizer that my class studied.
Okay, I think you're having a little bit of technical difficulties, so I know you've been going in and out a little bit. I don't know if there's anything you can do about that. Why don't we stop the clock for a moment?
Give me 1 second here.
Your Honor, if you don't mind, I will be using my teammate's computer as the computer I'm currently using is having technical difficulties.
I think this is much better.
Okay, good. Let's move on and talk about your understanding of Drufo specifically as a fertilizer.
Your Honor, I made an objection.
I believe that counsel just is going to move on and not pursue that line of questioning. So sustained.
Okay, thank you. I will continue. So Drufo is a really unique fertilizer. It binds to the nitrogen that's usually present in fertilizers, and this prevents buildup. It is better for the environment. It's better for the animals that live near agricultural industries and farms, and this lack of nitrogen buildup really sets our product apart from a lot of other fertilizers on the market.
Mm-hmm. And to your understanding, after researching Drufo in labs, what do you determine about the fertilizer?
After our thorough studies, it can be concluded that there is no meaningful relationship between Drufo and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. In other words, the studies show that Drufo doesn't cause cancer. We also found that Drufo is great for the environment through our studies, but that's a little less prevalent in this case.
And if this is all true, why would the EU ban the fertilizer?
Drufo is banned in the EU and France, not due to concerns relating to cancer at all, but more environmental concerns. The problem with the idea of nitrogen runoff is it's a very large system. You have to take into a lot of different factors into account, including lakes, rivers, streams, a very large ecological sphere. And that is very difficult to translate into a lab situation. So usually in a lab, when there's nitrogen runoff, it doesn't run off anywhere. It's still in the lab. So the EU is worried that our fertilizer doesn't prevent nitrogen runoff like it does, just because it's very difficult to test in a closed lab setting.
And about these reports and lab tests, let's go more into your research with Drufo. What have your studies found relating to Drufo and carcinogens?
We have found no correlation between Drufo and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or other types of cancer. Our studies were very thorough. We hold ourselves to a very high standard here at Lush Fertilizer. And after our extensive studies, we, again, concluded no relationship to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And can I ask you what your professional opinion is of Dr. Rogers' study of Drufo?
From a professional standpoint, another scientist would have a few clarifications, questions that would lead to a little bit of skepticism. For example, I think the jury should be hesitant to believe Dr. Rogers because it's not published and it's not peer reviewed. And peer review is an essential part of the scientific process. It's how we take our biases out of this.
Relevance.
Your Honor, this study was already previously used, and I was just asking my client's opinion on the study as a professional.
All right, I think that's relevant, so I'll allow it.
And what are your professional thoughts on the plaintiff's decision that Drufo causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
I think that this is a misguided lawsuit, and it's, the plaintiff chose the wrong person, the wrong group to blame for the cancer. But from my perspective, it's devastating. We're in a situation where a young person has developed cancer. It has really drastically changed her life, and I feel so much sympathy. I feel terrible. Unfortunately, from my perspective as a doctor, I can't, in good conscience, tie her cancer to Lush Fertilizer and the use of Drufo.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. You told me in voir dire that you've spent the last several years studying the effects of toxic chemicals on deceased humans as a medical examiner, but that was before you were at Lush, correct?
Study toxicology at Lush too. I lead the toxicology labs here. So no, that's not true.
Okay, but you never studied how Drufo affected humans, correct?
I lead the toxicology labs. So I'd say yes, that falls under that umbrella.
Okay. In your witness statement, you said on line 17, I know how to tell if a substance is going to harm the average human and how to neutralize that harm if it happens. But you just didn't do that with Drufo, correct?
No, I see that line. I'm not contradicting it. No, I did study Drufo from a toxicology standpoint.
Okay. You didn't do this because the CEO of Lush Fertilizer told you to keep the products, quote, industry leading and cost effective, as you say in your witness statement on lines 29 to 30, correct?
Our products are industry leading and cost effective because we're an innovative company. We have great leadership. We have a great team. That's not due to cutting corners.
You've also done various data analysis, correct?
Yes. It's a key part of the scientific process.
but you only studied data and statistics in reference to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and Drufo.
I studied both of those, yes.
But you chose this method over studying the effects on humans, right?
Statistical analysis is not mutually exclusive with studying the effects on humans. I'm confused by the question.
Let's move on. You have disagreed with Dr. Rogers' study because it wasn't peer-reviewed or replicated, right?
Yes.
You never studied the effects of Drufo on humans in your 12 years being with the company, but at least Dr. Rogers spent several years studying the chemical.
That doesn't seem to be a question. Usually questions have something that indicates their question.
You said that you've never studied the effects of Drufo on humans in your several years being with the company, but at least Dr. Rogers spent several years studying this chemical unlike lush fertilizer, correct?
I don't agree with that, no.
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Not quite, but close. You can answer the question.
My answer would be no, I don't agree with that statement.
Why don't you agree with this statement?
I don't agree with this statement because as the head of toxicology and development labs, I've extensively studied the effects of Drufo. We're a very conscious company. We've done everything in our power to
But you haven't studied the effects of Drufo on humans, right?
No, I have.
Okay.
That's what our labs do. We've studied the effects of Drufo, but for this product launch.
But you specifically have not. Your labs.
I read the labs that do.
Okay. Well, you seem to be pretty critical of Dr. Rogers' study, correct?
Yes, being critical is essential. I'm critical of my own work, and I extend that to Dr. Casey Rogers.
Well, you could have replicated her study, but your company chose to only study it for 2 months, right?
We did study for 2 months, yes.
Because you wanted to rush the business of the company.
No.
Well, in fact, since Lush started in 2001, it only studied for 2 months before shutting the study down, right?
We actually reopened the study and did even more studies to be on the safe side.
Lastly, you criticized Dr. Rogers' study based on exposures that other people had, right?
Yes, he didn't isolate variables the way I would expect a professional experiment to do.
But it is impossible to take any human and know all the toxins they've been exposed to when testing them, right?
I was more concerned with reasonable isolation, but yes, it is impossible to isolate every variable.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Doctor, can I just ask again what your credentials are to be in this case today?
Well, I have extensive education and experience. I have a PhD from Colorado State University. I have additional education from University of Utah. I have multiple certifications that you can see on my CV. I run multiple toxicology and development labs at Lush. And using all the information I have available, I personally feel I'm very qualified to make educated assessments.
And then really quickly, how long have you been working with Lush?
I've worked at Lush for 10 years, and for 7 of those years, I've led the toxicology labs.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. All right, any further witnesses? Hearing nothing, is the plaintiff ready to give a closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed.
We are here today because Dakota Weirs does not get to live out her dream to attend Juilliard. She does not get to sit on a piano bench anymore. She suffers from crippling depression, and she had trouble even getting here today, all because of Lush Fertilizer and their desire to make more money. Today you heard first from Carson Durst, who worked at Lush Fertilizer, who told you that Lush Fertilizer knew about the risks of Drufo. She worked there during the time that they were developing Drufo, and she watched as all of the employees and managers completely ignored the warning signs that they were receiving from the researchers. She told us about how they decided to leave out the baking process because they didn't think it was worthy of their time and money. She even told us that when she looked at the final report of Drufo, that they had actually left off several of the warnings and disclaimers. Outside of work, Miss Doncourt and Miss Durst were family friends, so she knew that Miss Doncourt was having personal issues, making her more frantic to get Drufo on the market because she needed to make more money. Next, you heard from our expert, Dr. Casey Rogers, who spent years studying the effects of Drufo on humans and found out regular exposure to Drufo made a person 10 times more likely to get cancer than someone who was never exposed. Dr. Rogers spent years studying this, while Lush could only be bothered to study it for 2 months out of the 18 years of their company. You also heard from Blake Doncourt, whose greed is the reason that Dakota is sick. She told you that she didn't bake her fertilizer because baking fertilizer is costly. And you also heard about all the financial strains on Blake Doncourt at the same time. She was going through a divorce, she had a new spouse, and on top of that, she was spending 10% of her profits on environmental issues just in the hopes of gaining recognition. If she had slowed down to listen to her researchers or cared enough to bake her fertilizer, then we would not be here today. And finally, you heard from Dakota Weirs, who was a healthy teenage girl when she began working with Lush Fertilizer. She described how she began feeling sick all the time. She had chest pains. She often felt fatigued. She explained that this was all right before she was getting ready to leave to attend Juilliard on a full scholarship. All of you have learned today that this product is banned in several other countries. Do you really believe the European Union would ban a product that is as safe and as revolutionary as Lush claims it is? No one wants to be here today talking about a 20-year-old with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Blake Doncourt definitely does not want to be here today facing the fact that his company caused cancer. Especially my client, Dakota Weirs. Dakota wants to be at Juilliard. She wants to be playing the piano and sitting on the piano bench. You heard from several witnesses that Lush ignored all the warning signals and didn't publish the research because they wanted to rush their product to the market. All because they were focused on making money and not safety. Today is a day that they need to be held accountable for what they have done. Ladies and gentlemen, we are asking you to hold them accountable by awarding Dakota with $2,615,553. This number is the cost that Lush would have paid over 10 years if they had just bothered to bake the Drufo. We believe this is a fair ask of you because this is just a small fraction of the profits that Lush got to keep because they did not care about the safety of their workers. In 2004, when Blake made the financial table analyzing the cost of baking Drufo, he decided then how much Dakota's life was worth. We are asking you to hold Lush Fertilizer responsible and find in favor of Dakota Weirs.
Thank you, counsel. Before we move on, I believe that one of the scoring panels may have dropped off. Can the administrator check into that, please?
Yeah, just give me a sec, Judge. I'll see if I can figure it out. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to make you redo that.
Ms. Cox, are you back on, ma'am? Ms. Cox, can you hear me okay, ma'am?
Yes, I sincerely apologize. I was kicked out for about 90 seconds.
I'm glad we got you back in. Judge, I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Thank you. I ask that you just judge based on what you saw, and I think it would be unfair to make the council redo her closing.
Certainly, Your Honor.
So with that, you were done with your closing, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, but I have a rebuttal clause.
Okay. Assuming that there's time left, timekeeper, is there time? All right. With that, we will allow you to reserve the remainder of your time, and we'll hear from the defense with their closing.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today the defense has shown you the things needed to prove the comparative fault of the plaintiff. Our job today was simply to prove to you that the possibility of Drufo causing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma was less than likely. But today we have shown you how Drufo could not have possibly caused this much pain in a young woman's life. We ask Dakota to take responsibility for her actions, and we ask you, members of the jury, to rule in favor of the facts with the defense. First, we proved that Dakota failed to keep herself safe at the advice of her employer and the Lush product she used. Not only that, but working in landscaping also exposed her to chemicals proven to cause harm. Dakota Veers underwent an unfortunate tragedy, and the defense does sympathize with her, but her willing ignorance of the safety recommendations provided not only by Lush, but by her employer should show you, people of the jury, that Lush is not the one to blame here. Secondly, we showed you that even in spite of her ignorance, the Lush product she used, more specifically the Drufo in the Lush product she used, was not the cause of her non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The opposing counsel tried to bring a truly sad story to you and present it as a reason to side with them. But those aren't facts. The opposing counsel tried hurting our credibility with stories of workplace drama and sibling rivalry. The opposing counsel tried to bring you feelings and called them facts. The opposing counsel has witnesses that have not done their research and only rushed to conclusions. The defense hopes you do not do the same. Today, you heard from Dr. Devin Williams, an expert in toxicology and the effects of harmful substances on people, and the lead researcher at Lush's company. He showed you that there's no reason to suspect Drufo of being a harmful substance, even showing you that Drufo is beneficial to the environment, cutting out many of the other proven harmful chemicals that are found in other fertilizers. You heard from Blake Doncourt about the steps they took to ensure the safety of their product before putting it on the market. They also told you about the awards this product has earned for being environmentally safe and the good the company does for charities. Finally, you heard from Skylar Veers, the research journalist who employed the use of verified, reliable government sources. Skylar is so certain about the safety of Drufo that they would testify against their own sibling in court today. That, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is how sure we are of Drufo's safety. We looked at the facts. We showed them all to you to court today. We implore you to look at the facts with us and rule in favor of the defense. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. How much time is left for rebuttal, timekeeper? All right. Whenever you're ready.
Instead of taking responsibility, the defense wants you to blame Dakota. They want you to believe that their insufficient and vague warning was enough to ensure that everyone would use protective gear. But there is nothing on the package that states you could get cancer from this product. Let me ask you this. After sitting through this evidence today, would you send your daughter out to work in a field with Lush fertilizer containing Drufo? How about your brother or your best friend? The answer is no. The answer is no because Lush Fertilizer did a short-term, incomplete study of Drufo before putting it in their fertilizer. The answer is no because even with the research that Lush did do, they disregarded the warning signs that came up in their research. And the answer is no because Blake Doncourt was more concerned with saving money than making sure his fertilizer was actually safe. As you decide whether or not to hold Lush Fertilizer accountable for what has occurred, remember that Dakota Weirs may not be your daughter or sister or best friend, but she was the one sent into those fields to work with Drufo, and now her life has changed forever. Thank you.
All right. The case will be submitted to the jury. If the scoring panelists will complete their score sheets and let us know come back on screen when you have done that. And then if the team members can come on screen as well, and we'll do some performance reviews and talk about how we're doing.
Can everybody hear Judge Rich all right? I think he'd like to give you students some comments if you would.
If everybody come back on screen as soon as the scoring is done, we'll have the panelists give you some feedback.
And Judge Rich, if you'd like to give the students your comments while the panelists work, that'd be just great.
Now we get everybody back on screen. All right. All right. Excellent. Well, thank you all very much. I know this is the first round, and so you've got a lot ahead of you today and tomorrow. Ms. Scott, do you want to share some feedback? Why don't you tell the team members who you are, what you do?
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Scott, and I am currently an associate at Moya White, which is a private law firm downtown. And I work on business law and still figuring out the different areas that I'm practicing in. I would say I was in your spot not too long ago, but I guess time flies by, and this pandemic makes it seem like it wasn't as long ago as it actually was. But I think you all did a fantastic job, and your presence during it I thought was great. I guess more or less little tweaks that we can improve on going forward would be knowing more of the rules of evidence. Sometimes, when making an objection, such as, on cross and objecting and saying that they are leading the witness, that's something that they're supposed to be doing on that side. Vice versa, on direct, you're supposed to be asking open-ended questions. And then if someone is on asking during direct, if you object because someone is leading it, that's an appropriate time to raise that objection. I thought that some people did a really great job in admitting evidence and laying the foundation in front of the court. It seemed to be as though you were a practicing attorney. I know that Miss Isabella at the end, during your direct examination, you did a really great job at doing that. It was pretty flawless. I would say as well, one thing that I noticed during opening or closing, It is a breaking the golden rule, asking the jury to insert themselves into the case. So I know that Annie, at the end during your rebuttal, you asked the jury to say, would you do this in the situation? No, you would not. That's asking the jury to insert themselves into the case. So in the real world, implications like that could be a potential mistrial. However, you did such an amazing job in your closing and in your rebuttal, notwithstanding that fact. And I don't want you to be discouraged at all in thinking that that's something, people do to this day. Practicing attorneys do that. And that's just, it is what it is. But I think that you all did a very great job, and I will allow the other scoring panelists to speak as well. And I wish you the best of luck in the competition moving forward.
Thank you. Ms. Cox.
Thank you, Judge. Hi, everyone. My name is Janie Cox. I am also an attorney in private practice. I practice professionalism defense, which is basically ethics law. I defend attorneys who have run afoul of the rules of professional conduct and are in trouble with their license. I handle issues involving government ethics and things as well. And I practice at a firm called Burns, Figa and Will, which is here in Arapahoe County over off of Arapahoe at I-25. So I also have been, until this year, I have been a coach for mock trial teams for over 10 years. So I've seen a lot of these performances in my day, and I want to also congratulate all of you on a job really well done. You can see there's clearly been a lot of preparation and hard work that you all have put into this. So you should be very proud of what you're doing. And today was or this afternoon at least was the hardest part. Your next rounds are going to get easier as you're more comfortable. So take a deep breath and really get into it and enjoy these rounds now. I don't want to take too much time with specific comments. A couple sort of technical things. Everybody keep in mind when you are the attorney handling a witness, even if you're on mute because it's not your turn to go, we can still see you. So when you're talking to other team members or there's things going on or you're exasperated about something, we can see your facial expressions when all that's happening. So try really hard to keep your game faces. At one point, Exhibit 4 got admitted, and I think that was supposed to be an email that really seemed like maybe you would have this like bombshell information that the company knew that Drufo caused cancer and they were covering it up or something. What could have been really helpful to make that point really effective is when you're admitting that exhibit and it comes into evidence, share it on the screen. Let us see for ourselves those damning words that take down Blake Doncourt. So that just a tip that the visual aids like that, using the exhibits as you can in the challenges of this format, using the visual aids can be really effective. So again, I don't want to bog down with a ton of individual comments, but you all did a great, great job. Congratulations.
Thank you. I want to focus on the witnesses because I think the lawyers did a really good job and have shown a lot of skill in this. Before I go into the witnesses, though, compound questions. Don't ask two things at once. There were a lot of easy pushback by the witnesses when I didn't understand your question because you were asking two different things. So be wary of that. The compound question is an objection to make when two things are being asked at the same time. So beware of that. There were some really good head notes by the attorneys. Okay, I want to talk to you about this now. I want to talk to you about that now. So you're really directing the testimony. This is where we're going, and it helps the witness, especially on direct examination, which is harder than cross because it's less fun, because it's not about you. Cross is about you, direct is about the witness. And we're lawyers, we want it to be all about us. Speaking about us, my name is Greg Rich. I'm an attorney at Coon Curry, Rich and Jarvis, doing primarily civil litigation, mostly on the defense side. Happy to say I've never been a client of Ms. Cox's, and I'm going to knock on wood that doesn't happen. And I also want to say that Phil Figo, one of the founding partners of her firm, is a giant in the Colorado legal world and was a great lawyer and a great federal judge for the short time we had him there. But witnesses, I think you guys did great. I do like the offense taken. I think that was you, Ms. Martin, for defending ASU, or is that you, Ms. Adams?
That was me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was great. That was awesome. That was you, Ms. Adams. That was fantastic. It was because it was right off the mark. It wasn't something that you were prepared for. It seemed like, and so you just reacted, and that was great. I think the best answer on any of the cross examinations was when Miss May said no. That was it. She didn't try to explain. I know you guys are taught as witnesses, especially experts. You can't get experts to shut up. You can ask an expert their name and they're still talking 10 minutes later in the real world. And so when Miss May was asked the question she disagreed with, she just said no. She didn't explain herself. It was great. I thought that was very effective. Mr. Haverlander, I thought you were going in, I thought your character was the weakest witness. And frankly, if I wasn't constrained by the prior ruling from the court, I would have probably, I think this is you, Ms. Sinchi, I would have probably sustained your objection to him as a witness, as an expert, because I don't think he's an expert. But the court had already found he was, so I wasn't gonna, and plus that would have shortened his testimony quite a bit. But I thought you did a great job. It's hard when you have a witness who may not be very compelling, but you did a great job making him compelling. So I want to thank you for that. Ms. Frau, as Blake Doncourt, you were just an assassin with a smile. I was very impressed with your inflection, your responses, and I just thought you did really well with that. Let's see. Yeah, I don't want to go for too long. You've got another round to prepare for, but just want to say congratulations to all of you, and it was a real pleasure to be your judge for this one.
All right, folks, thank you so much to the judge, that is to Judge Rich, as well as our scoring panelists on behalf of the Arapahoe County Bar Association. Nice start to the competition, guys. All right, keep it up. You got another round coming up quick. Judges and scoring panelists, we have received your scores, so you are free to log off. If you have no more rounds to judge, thank you so much for your help. If you have more rounds to judge, we'll see y'all back either later this afternoon or tomorrow. Thank you all so much. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Administrator, can you stay on for a second?
Who did you need on, Judge?
You.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Are we still starting the second round at 4?
My guess is we may be running a touch late, sir, but as far as I know we are. Let me do this. If you can hold on 1 second, I'll go talk to Kim and we'll see if we're going to be delayed. All right.
Thanks.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't know your name. The Arapahoe County Regional person. My coach is confused on how to get the assignments for next round.
We will get them to him. Why don't you hold on? Let the coach know we're going to get the information out. All right.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything.
If there's a problem, have him email the Bar Association. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
And
Thank you so much.
Which team letter? Your team K?
K, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Judge Rich, I'll be right back with you.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right, Greg, you still there?
Yeah.
We think probably 4:10 is a fair estimate. It probably won't be much earlier, but we'd like you there by 4:10 or available, if you would, please.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks.